Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Everybody there well?
All good, all good.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Can I just mention we've got second edition at magazine out. It's available on Amazon. Amazon. It might be on Amazon as well. I don't know. But that's come out today. Fantastic articles in it. It's brilliant. It's really, really good stuff. Yeah, and then on Sunday we've got an haunted object that's locked off. So we're going to be running that as well on Sunday night at 9 o'clock. That'll run for about, I think, about half an hour or something like that. So we just want people to screenshot, send them in. And if you get out, let us know. It'd be fantastic. So there you go. Right, what we're talking about tonight then.
Well, here's the thing. That's going to be quite interesting because one of the subjects I wanted to talk about tonight is that infamous subject of orbs.
Oh, no.
It can anger people. It can get people excited. It can get frustrating. It can be all sorts.
Absolutely.
What I think we should try and do with this is put our own opinions forward as to what we think orbs are and stuff. But I want to kind of start at the top of it, really, about the use of a camera.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm a photographer. I teach photography. I understand when I'm teaching people about cameras and the light sensors in a camera, how it works. So here's the thing. All cameras, any camera, video camera, high-speed camera, whatever kind of camera you've got, the nature of a camera, it's trained to pick up on the very lightest subject and take a picture of it. That's what it's there for. In fact, the word photography means light capture. So it's looking for the lightest subject. When you point a camera, in normal circumstances, when you point a camera at a landscape, it's metering the sky, metering the floor, and it's going to give you an average shot to do it. But it's looking for the lightest part to give you depth, to give you some form of tone and texture in the lighter areas of your camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's the problem. When you go into using night vision, when you go into using infrared, when you go into using a camera, phone or mobile phone or normal camera, it picks up on the lightest subject. And we all know that I've had thousands, and probably you two have had the same. I've had thousands of people saying to me, look at this, I've got orbs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you that 99% of cases, it's dust.
Yeah.
Pure dust, because that's the lightest object that our eye can't see, but the camera spots it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sensitivity of that camera is really good. It can pick up the most amazing little things. Our eyes are more sensitive, but we override dust by viewing something we're actually staring at because our eyes automatically adjust. Camera can't do that. A camera just sees something. It's a fixed object thing, so it causes all sorts of issues. So one of the first things we're going to tackle is cameras. They are a nightmare. Okay.
Yeah.
No matter what ISO sensitivity you put them on, low or high, you're always going to get some form of anomaly. Even the lens on the front of the lens will cause refractions inside it, which will give you light bursts. You get starburst effects. I mean, I can even create with my photography lamps and lights to have starburst effect, and that's down to the aperture. So here's the thing with them. A camera's really, really hard. So I wanted to kind of just go across the fact that cameras and video cameras detect movement. So they're looking for that light source subject, you know. So we kind of have to dispel, I would honestly say 99% of photography and 99% of pictures that we get, we have to dispel them because it's the camera's fault, not what you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would you agree, or?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, for me, if I'm on my own pages or somebody else's, I tend to never try to discuss the orb subject because everybody just says, oh, boring, oh, it's dust. Oh. Fair enough. Yeah, I get it. There's, to be fair with you, in all my time, I've seen two, hi, John, I've seen two what I class as maybe just energies, other than, I mean, one place I went, it were kind of, it'll have been about that big, but it were in front of 5 people's faces and it were moving.
Right.
So it wasn't, we weren't looking at it through a video camera or a camera or a phone. I've no idea what really it was because I've not seen it with my own eyes before. And then the other time, I were in Spotherth Castle in the centre part of the castle, and it was actually a summer's evening. And in the shot, I could see it was just like yellow lightning, but I saw it with my own eyes as well as on the camera. So the camera caught it, and I saw it, and it was just like lightning in yellow going past my eyes. So I don't even know what that was, other than my own thoughts were just energy.
Yeah,
that is what I thought. So from my
it's I think it's like that as well, Julie, like you were saying. I think it's movement.
Yeah.
Dust has particular movements to it,
yeah.
which are quite erratic and all over the place and that. But if you get a true orb, it'll have a path, or it'll have a direction, or it'll interact, or do you know what I mean? Whereas when you look at dust and you see dust coming across, and you know, you can tell you don't get it. Yeah, you don't get in a row when you're checking your pictures or whatever. If you've just walked through that room, you've obviously picked a load of dust up, and it's erratic how it behaves around you, because it's obviously following air drafts and all these kinds of things. But then when you see an orb without a camera and you physically see it in front of you, you can see as well that it's not a flat disc.
Yes.
Whereas dust is a flat disc, isn't it? You know, even if you saw a speck of dust, and sometimes you do get glimpses of dust and that off you know, sunlight comes through, it chinks on it and you see a bit thing. But they're always round and they're always flat, like just a disc. Whereas a true orb will be a ball.
Yeah, it's
sphere shape.
It's quite a subject matter, because what people forget, that everything around us is deteriorating. Everything. Your clothes are deteriorating. They lose bits. You lose bits off your face, your skin. The buildings around you are breaking down because we're living on a planet that's spinning. It's vibrating, so it's breaking everything down all the time. So dust is something that, even if you've got the most sealed off place, you've still got dust.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and maybe you go into medical centers, they spend hours and hours and hours getting extraction machines to take out even the minutest of dust.
Yeah.
So it's a common problem. So dust, as far as a camera and one or two things go concerned, very, very difficult to capture an orb. Very difficult.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't, but it is very hard to. But what a lot of people don't realize is, I think what we've got to talk about is that connection to spirit, that connection to the paranormal, that extraordinary connection that we've got, because it is part of the phenomena. It is part of what goes on when it comes to dealing with a spirit.
Yeah.
Because a spirit has to gain its energy and put something together. And what I've done over my time, there's like 5 types of orb shapes and forms, and they start off, and I've got down here, the first one is that what I call the flicker light. It's that where you're sitting there and you think, what was that? You've just caught something in the corner of your eye that's just flickered, little sparkle.
Yeah.
It can actually happen in front of you, but it's that sparkle of light, and it's this energy form coming together to give you like a little flash of light, and it's usually minute, but it's enough for your own eye to pick it up.
Yeah.
Because with our eyes don't sit still. You see, our eyes are always constantly moving. We're always constantly, and then we're swapping from left to right, depending on where a subject is near you or from you. So your eye's constantly moving. So it gets used to a room being static and still. So the first time anything moves or the first time anything kind of does anything like that, your eye will spot something like a little anomaly, and that chooses a flicker of light, very small.
Yeah.
But it's energy. It's that paranormal energy. It's that ghostly energy trying to come together to form something.
And so again, though, Ralph, it won't be erratic. It won't be all over the place. You know, it'll tend to settle in a place.
Yes. Well,
and then
it actually
form and build, and you know.
Yeah, it'll lead me on to how orbs actually work. Now, we kind of go into it a little bit more of a scientific level. I'm not going to get too technical, but when if you talk about dust will actually literally rise and fall depending on heat and coldness. It'll also move left and right depending on wind sources and things. So an orb, for all intents and purposes, can actually go all over the place. It's rising, falling, going left and right.
Yeah.
Where an orb that we deal with is different. Where an orb is that we have different is when an orb actually doesn't do that. It goes left and right, then it will hold its position. It's potentially going to come forward to you, or it will start to almost work on its own. And you'll notice it above everything else. It'll actually hover around an object.
Yeah.
It may stay a bit longer. It may even move around a room, may even go coloured, which you talked about earlier on, Julie. It does that kind of thing, and that's one of the last forms I'm going to talk about. But it will actually have I'm not going to say it's intelligent at that stage when it's small, but it's certainly got a bit more of a kick about it than just flowing left and right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, actually, out of investigations I've done, they're rare, but
oh yeah,
I mean, you do get a lot of orbs. Like in a room what's dusty, you'll get a dense capture of orbs. But every now and again, we've seen one in particular. We're in infrared, and it was this little ball of light, like an orb. It went to cupboards, and it moved like this around room, and it weren't like a breeze what we're doing. It were actually going up, down, and then it's like it were looking around room.
Yeah.
And we caught it on video. It were in infrared at the time.
Yeah.
And there were no other orbs on screen. It was just that one. It did it for about like 8 seconds, and then it disappeared, and nothing for the rest of the night.
I think that's part into it, with intelligence part of it, that there's intelligent movement to it, to a true orb, than there is to something else. You know, that can be a lot of different, even energy manifesting that's not spiritual energy. It's just energy that manifests. That tends to be quite erratic as well when that moves about. You know.
Yeah.
But I think it's that intelligence status of it that's what attracts you to it being a true orb, is that, you know, that it's got a purpose why it's there, and a purpose to its movement as well.
That's the key. That any orb that comes across has a purpose. It's not just there randomly.
Yeah.
Now, and the other thing is they're generally on their own.
Yeah.
Right? They're generally on their own. I'm not saying they don't. It gets even rarer when there's 2 or 3. I've been in a house, and it was up in Newcastle, where there were 5 of them, and they all came together. It was like watching somebody, you know, with these pens. They have these pens. They were literally moving around each other, and then they moved off again. But they were doing it as we were talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, and that's a rare thing, but generally you get an orb on its own, and what they do is they really do sit down and they'll say, we're here for something. It's a sign for you. Yeah. Now they come in different colors. They come in different wavelengths of color, because our eyes have a real hard time over certain colors. It has to be a very bright yellow for us to spot yellow, because yellow, once it goes past a certain tonal range, just for us comes white.
Yeah.
We certainly can't see ultraviolet light, so that's gone in our vision anyway. But certainly when it comes to most colors, most orbs that I've ever come across are either yellow, red, or blue.
Yes.
Okay. They're the most distinctive colors, and it's almost like the prime colors that we are used to in our eyes anyway. Rare I've seen a green one, or rare I've seen when it goes to that purple stage, because purple again is one of those colours that will disappear into the darkness.
I've seen black ones. I've seen black orbs.
Right. Well,
They're this big.
That's one. That I'm going to talk about a black one later on. There's a what we call a big orb, which is black.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, let me give you the 5 stages, and we'll talk about how it all works. And it's only my opinion, and it's only because I've experienced enough of these things to sort of sit down and go, what's been happening? You've got what we call the flicker. Then you've got what we call the small orb, which is what we're talking about now. Then you've got what we call the shimmer effect, where it'll actually show itself, and it'll go dark, light, dark, light. It might even shimmer itself a little bit, but that's what it's doing. Then we've got what we call a large orb, which is the big, and they can be the size of your head, by the way. And then we've got the most fantastic orbs, which are the colour orbs. And the one that's the rarest of all is the black orb. So, and as you're going up the scale, they become much more intelligent. By the time you've got to a coloured orb and a black orb or a large orb, they'll actually interact with you. You can talk to it, and it will either dance for you, it'll go on and off for you. And you've got, and it's a very high-powered energy that's doing that.
Yeah,
that's what happened in that mill when the round one, and it were in front of us, and it were dancing about, and everybody's going, "Can you see that?" And I'm going, "Yeah." And I think there were 5 of us, and we were just watching it, and then just suddenly, after about a minute, it just dispersed and disappeared.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
The most fascinating one I've ever seen, well, I haven't seen it. I should say I've had a video sent of it, is, when kids blow bubbles through those bubble rings. If you've ever looked at one, they have a rainbow effect on them.
Yeah.
Woman, I think it's in South Carolina. I might stand corrected on that. But anyway, she used to go into a kitchen, and there was one the size of a football.
Yeah.
It was like it was glowing, and it was almost like an earthly pattern on it. And it was there week after week after week. No idea why. No, as soon as you put a camera up, it would disappear. The moment you tried to video it, would disappear. But she managed to get a reflection of it in a mirror, and that's what she put the camera in the mirror, and she got you saw it all. It was fantastic.
Wow.
Awesome. To this day, no idea why or how, but it was literally massive. And once it disappeared, I think it had been there for a couple of weeks, but once it disappeared, it's never come back. Yeah.
Me and my wife Claire were one afternoon. This is years and years ago. We were in other house, and we had a room went electric. You could feel room as though it were about to crackle, And then all of a sudden, from nowhere, a blue orb appeared, and that was at least this, like a football.
Yeah.
And it kind of just went zip, and it was there.
Yeah.
It came round Claire, my wife, came across to me, went back to Claire, then it dropped and shot straight and then just disappeared.
Yeah.
But it actually came round and as though it were viewing us. That what difference with it. But the entire room as well had that electrical feel to it. And as soon as it went, the feeling went. But it were only for a few seconds before it appeared, so it were kind of gathering what it needed to. It must have really needed to pull to get to that side, But fantastic experience.
Oh, and I can believe it. Just to answer Kat's question across the bottom there, black mass is a completely different sense to an orb, and we're talking about an orb like a ball shape or just a slightly irregular shape, but it's orby. A black mass is something else that I'm going to deal with when we come to some of the more delicate subject matters we've got to come and talk about, because black masses are certainly connected to demonic side of things when we come to stuff. Or I should say a multiple set. But what most of us miss when we're dealing with an orb are all the other sensations that go along with it. Now, I'm going to put orb sizes and orb colours down to, let's talk about human beings as such. Some of us are quiet, some of us are loud, some of us are energetic, some of us don't sit still. Some of us just want to lie down and do nothing, lazy. So what you've got orbs that reflect a person's personality. So when you're dealing with, as you've just described there, Steve, a big blue orb, you're dealing with somebody that's got a bit more power, a bit more energy, a bit more, and you'll actually feel that yourself, because you'll feel pulled to it, you'll feel drawn to it, you'll feel energy change. The room will change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got these little red ones. I'm going to tell you something about the little red ones. I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the club I went to, but again, it's up north. But we watched this one dance across the wall. Now, because it was red, didn't half give me a creepy feeling, and it was creepy enough anyway. But because it was this red dot, you didn't half feel as though there was a bit of menace to it, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it didn't do anything bad to us, it felt. Just gave us a creepy feel. So I don't know fully whether or not the redder ones are a little bit more, but they certainly make me feel odd.
I wonder if they work off like your auras. There's people who believe in auras and different colours of auras. Obviously for mood change and if you're ill and all this, your aura changes. So it could be possible that orbs are the same thing. That they can change and reflect that mood, or they could reflect. If you're a bad person, you're not going to have a bright shining aura, are you? You know. So it could reflect that.
Yeah, it could follow the chakra colours, like red, which is more like basic instincts, anger, reaction. So and then like you were saying with blue, which is usually a higher energy. Yeah.
I think the best ones I've seen were actually on a video, and the video, I think Steve took it when they were in number 30 East Drive, and you can see it, and it's like a disc, and it comes. Did it come from the floor or from behind?
No, it comes. I was sat opposite another investigator. This is years ago as well, isn't it? I was sat across from another, and I mean. East Drive then, there were only a chair and a settee in room. There were no other paraphernalia or anything weird. And it kind of came from where radiator level was.
That's it.
And I were filming this other investigator with my phone just like this. And I'm looking and I seen this thing just go straight across room. And you can hear me on tape saying, I hope, you know, like, but you could see it. But when you broke it down and looked at it, it were two discs together, like it looked like a yo-yo as it were coming and as it moves. But it's really, really clear, that one. That were really clear.
Yeah. I'll tell you where, I mean, it's only my experience of them, but I've found them to be more prevalent around a war zone. So you'll go on battlefields, you'll go on areas where there's been some sort of a siege, historic or modern.
Trauma and places like that.
Trauma, yeah. Or funnily enough, and this will relate to Holly, I've been to murder scenes and they've been there. So I tend to put most of the orbs I've ever seen down to some form of horrific death rather than just a normal run-of-the-mill somebody passing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've seen where somebody's passed and there's been the sparkly kind of an orb going up, but I've been in rooms where we know there's been a horrific murder. I went into a children's hostel, and again that's up north, and I think about it, where we went underground and there was orbs all over the place. There were only little ones, but we knew there were children that had been murdered in there, and we knew that the space in there was tight. So we also knew that they had issues. So they've been in and around a murder scene and stuff. So although I don't want to pin it to say that it's definitely murder, it's just that they seem to be more prevalent around them.
Yeah. I think if you die peacefully in your sleep.
I mean, there's a lady, she's friends. She's friends with Timothy Dalton from Ghost Prowlers, and she calls herself an orb expert, and she will brighten the orb up, show all its colours, and then sometimes there are faces that appear in these orbs as well. And she's really good at it. I've seen some fabulous ones that she's shown. Really good.
It's just unfortunate that these things aren't that regular. 99% that we see on camera, forget them. They're just not regular. So I don't know how much research you can go fully into it all. I've only ever seen them when I've been in where there's been trauma, where there's been a lot of that anger. And in most cases I've seen them, they've usually risen from the floor.
Yeah, coming up.
They've come up.
As opposed to going down. Yeah.
It's risen up.
Yeah, the example that I mentioned about the one that went to the cupboard, it actually came from the floor because we had it set up static. There were no one in the room, and we only saw it when we looked back. It came from the floor, went up to the top cupboard, came back down, went across, and then went back across the room, and then it just went through wall. And and that also that did come through the floor. But I'm just trying to remember that building, and apparently we're used as an hospital. So again, like you were saying, trauma. So that makes sense.
It's a fascinating. It really is a fascinating subject, and it's one I know everybody kind of poo-poos it, to be honest, and they chuck it away. But you shouldn't, not really, particularly if you're seeing it by eye. It becomes quite a. I should tell you what you do when you see one. You forget where you are. You just follow it. It doesn't matter what else is going on in the room. Your eyes, and it's amazing to see one. And it's amazing to see one. I've actually done a show in Sunderland Theatre where I've been standing doing a show, and two people sat in front of me had an orb above their head, and I kept looking at it, and I was stunned. When I went to talk to them. Okay, I was talking to them. Both of them were lay preachers. They were very spiritual. And initially, I put it down to, well, it must be some sort of heavenly thing, but it wasn't. It was these two were involved with people that were dying of illnesses, leprosy and things like this. They were involved in really horrific things, and so. But to physically see it by eye, something else.
It is. It's an experience, isn't it, to see it?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a phenomena that started years ago when digital cameras started coming out, where everybody was having these orbs. But it had been a case of this before, where people have seen it. I mean. I don't want to go too religious here, right? But we've got cases, Steve, where people have said they've seen an orb over a holy statue, or they've been in a church and they've seen these things. Whether you want to put them down to an angelic form, I don't know, but it's a higher level.
Yeah. Again, it takes it back to intelligence, doesn't it?
Incredibly much so. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You've just reminded me. Actually, there were a legend of I think it was stone statue. I don't know if I think it was Mexico, and the whole village were amazed, and it ended up in paper, and it was because of a blue orb over it might have been statue of Mary's head, and it was just hanging there for days, and people were just going in, and it caused I know it caused quite a sensation at the time. So I've heard of that. That's
it is, and when you get it connected on that level, that takes on a whole new persona, really, because when you're talking about those holy visions, those holy things, that I think they're just phenomenal. Because I've actually dealt with a lady in America who swears blind. She was lying in bed. She wasn't feeling very well. And this orb came towards her. It was a golden color. And then the thing manifested into this human being. It actually grew in front of her to this human being who seemed to touch her, and she seemed to feel better. And she said weeks after, she got this much more energy. So what my other part of this show was going to be talking about visions, but it all led up from the amount of people that said they've seen something, but they've seen the orb effect first.
It's like when you look at when you go back to kind of olden times and stuff, there's a lot of reports about lights on marshes and moorlands and things like that, like Will-o'-the-Wisp.
Yes.
Is another legend. I mean, a lot of them have been proved to be marsh gas or certain elements and things that mix together in conditions, and it forms a light and things like that. But there are others that have intelligently, like, kind of led people out of danger.
Yeah.
So they've been lost on a moor somewhere. They've seen a light appear to them, and it's kind of beckoned them to follow them, and they've ended up being safe or taken to somewhere where they could get some rest or whatever. But the history is kind of littered with them kind of experiences, you know.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the case I dealt with 1983. I was talking to the police at Wetherby. This is the true story of this. They were talking to me about they were driving their Ford Angular car out the road, right? And they saw this blue light come up from behind them. They thought it was another police car. This blue light kept flashing on, and it went past them. There was no car. There was just a blue light, blue flashing light that went past them. They pulled over, and you can imagine the two of them in the car were like, "Oh my God, you know, they've seen this blue flashing light." But they weren't the only ones to have seen it, because there's where before they built the big junction at A1 there was a little farmhouse, and apparently the farmer in there was continually complaining that the police were putting blue flashing lights on all the time, and so it just confirmed. From the 80s onwards, it's disappeared. Never, well, not that I'm aware of anymore. Nobody's had to talk to me about it anymore. But that's in and around Wetherby, so it's kind of like, you know, there you're going with things that we're seeing before we'd even got involved in all this sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's what's the story about the light that came down from the sky? It's in France. It came down from the sky, and it appeared in front of a village. They heard a voice, and then the light disappeared. And I now believe that I forgot the village. Oh, I forgot the village. Lourdes is one of them. There's another one. There's a village in France that was completely flattened. The Germans completely destroyed it.
Oh, I know where you mean. Oh.
Yeah.
Is it that village that you can still visit where everything's left how it was?
Yes, it's been completely destroyed. But this thing came from
to me.
That's so was that destroyed in war?
Yes, the Germans came in, they killed everybody and flattened it. And it was one of those stories where it was all muted for years and years and years.
It's still there.
It's still there.
In its form, as it was left.
But a whole crowd of people were there, and this thing came down from the sky. And they thought at first it was one of these rockets that you can, you know, these what do they call them, flare. They thought it was a flare coming down, but then it stopped and hovered above the ground, and then it said hello, and then it just disappeared. It was like everybody else. So I think it was about 40 or 50 odd people all doing a tour thing. Just freaked them out. So it's kind of, you know, it's
oh, sorry.
Well, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, it's like you said, in that area, all that energy and trauma and destruction. Do you think it's left some kind of energy connected to it? You know.
And then there's the Dartmoor case. The Dartmoor case where a woman had gone backpacking, got herself lost, kept seeing this light. And she followed this light, and it led her to the Broadmoor prison.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But there was
of all places,
which was lost completely. It gets foggy down there, but they took her to the prison. Luckily, the guards there managed to get her and got her home. But she talks about she kept seeing this torchlight thing. Yeah, but there was nobody in front. By the time she caught up with this thing, there was nobody in front of her.
Yeah.
The village in France, it's in Limoges, Ralph. And
That's
it's Arador-sur-Glane. Arador-sur-Glane, it's called. And it's just as it was left when it was occupied by the Germans in the war. A friend of mine's been, she said it's very, very well, she's a bit of a skeptic, is the lady that visited, who I know. And it was when I lived in France and she did, and she was telling me about it. And she said it's extremely weird and creepy because there's just everything, teacups, kettles on the stove, cars just parked. She said it's just not nice kind of thing.
No.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Kat's asking, having issues in my house at the moment, keep seeing invisible orbs, not sure how to explain, but like a different frequency in the air. Any thoughts, anybody, please?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, when we've got orbs of a similar light like that, where it's either flickering or it's small and stuff like this, it's generally energies around you. They're just trying to say hello. So it's kind of, or they're trying to make a point of being around you. That it's quite a common effect. In fact, I'm going to tell you that a lot of people get what we call peripheral vision stuff. It's where you're just at the corner of your eye generally. And it's just that little sparkly orb scenario, or what she's described as invisible, but it's kind of like it'll come forward and just disappear on you. And it's just our own energy form. We do it ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
We've done that thing where we've touched something and you've got that spark of energy that's coming from you because you built up of an energy form. And that's what this is about. When you become spirit, you try and grab as much energy around you as you can. It's a form of friction. It's a form of pulling energy together. Yeah. It's just that to do it as an orb, it's a high energy. It's a very high energy. It's not just you see, what I get annoyed at with a lot of people, they just see an orb and then they ignore it.
Yeah.
Orb, it's fine. And we dismiss it because there's such a lot of dispelling of it around. But what people don't realize is it's a very high powered energy. And to get it even a small one is something else. When it gets bigger, there's some energy force there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, when I might go back to the balloon, the bubble thing. When you blow a bubble, there's a lot of tension on that form to keep it in the air, to keep it floating. It's a phenomenal piece of work. And yet we take it for granted, but it isn't. It's phenomenal. When you've got an energy form that's dancing in front of you, that's clever.
Yeah.
That's really clever.
Yeah.
You know?
I was just wondering if it's all right to show a video of a theory on orbs that I had. It's terrible because I did it a bit ago, but I had this theory. I had a magnifying glass, and I noticed my finger were invisible behind it. But as it got closer, it started as a little orb, and it got bigger. And then in my mind, I was thinking, well, universe is kind of like bent, gravity bends things. So what if it's like an entity trying to get through from another, like, you know, field or dimension, and then it becomes like an orb. And I made a little video just showing it. I thought I could show
Get it on
that.
page. Put it on, John. Get it on page. Load it up.
Yeah.
Load it up.
One thing we noticed is they started off black, like you were saying, you know, because it's a dense thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. And with Ralph saying that, it just made me think. Yeah,
I'm going to say it. A black one. It's a rarer form, but it's a highest energy because it's absorbing everything.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a black hole, but a very smaller version of it. But it's a very dense form.
If you look at negative things and you look at demonic and stuff, when you're looking at black, it essentially is black. There's no light in it. There is no light with anything demonic at all.
I went to
Hence, your black ball,
with
you
some
know.
guys, and I can't even explain what I were catching. And we all, in the end, had our cameras on taking pictures of the same room, and only I was getting shapes of animals and shapes of people, but all in little black dots.
Yeah.
And nobody else got them. Do you remember that, Steve?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember that.
And we were looking at them and we could see like deer and one thing and another in it. And I know you might think, oh, well, it could just be pareidolia, but I've never, ever seen
But there
anything like that.
There weren't in that same area. If you're standing just taking your photos, when you're looking through them, there'd be some that had orbs on, and then there'd be others that didn't have orbs on. And when they didn't have them on, then your background it couldn't have been pareidolia, because pareidolia it's there all time, isn't it? You know, if you take 10 photos at exactly the same thing, then you'll get pareidolia 10 times if it is pareidolia.
Yeah.
But with this, it was obviously it weren't there, and then as they were appearing, they were there, and they were forming these shapes.
You know what? In like little black spots.
And then they're gone again, and you were back to, you'd got your black wall, you know, your blank wall at back of you. But these things weren't on wall; they were actually in front. You know.
Yeah, they were on ground, and everybody were coming in and having a go with their cameras, but there were only my camera that picked them up.
Yeah. You see, that's another subject I was going to add into this as well. You tend to find, here we go, find psychics and mediums pick up on it a lot faster than your average person who's, even ghost hunters tend to miss it, but somebody that's got that psychic ability tends to get them quick. Yeah. So I wonder whether it's because of the energy force that psychics, mediums, whatever you want to call yourself, are using. It's like to me, it's like an energy tear in the fabric that's pulling you, so it grabs you.
Yeah.
And because I've noticed this a lot. I've been with a lot of people, and like you say, Julie, a lot of people are looking, going, "No, I've not seen it." But those that have got psychic ability of any form have gone, "Well, I saw that." And so I'm thinking, there's got to be a connection into there.
I think there is, and I agree with you on that. But the night in the mill, there were only 2 psychics, if you want to call yourself that, in the building with 3 or 4 others. And we all saw the actual round ball, solid white, going over and then down and then up. And it was just right in front of us.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but on that one occasion, people who weren't psychic saw that. Maybe they are psychic, I don't know.
I think you see, inherently everybody with an ability of some form. It's just some of us pick up and run with it, some of us don't. But it's the I've found in most cases, when you've talked to people afterwards, one of the first few questions I'm asking somebody is, have you a belief in this? Do you believe in, have you had experiences? And I found most people have gone, yeah, I've had this experience, I've had this, I've had that. So they've got that ability. It's just at what level they're at. But the black ones are the ones that fascinate me, because whenever I've got near one that's been a black or a darker shape, doesn't necessarily have to be black, it can be a very dark color, but it's in there. I've found they're the more intelligent. Those are the ones that you can look at and you're thinking, if that moves left in a minute, I know it's listening to me, and watch it move left. Oh my!
or it moves as you're thinking it. Usually, doesn't it? Just as you're thinking it, it does it.
Does it? I was at Bamburgh Castle. There's a gentleman there called Mr. Calvert who kind of runs it all, and I was talking to him. We were in the big hall, and I saw this black orb, and in my mind I was going, "That's a black orb." So that's a black orb. Oh, I've got to get close to it. Well, the thing came at me. And he'll tell you I've dropped to the floor, and he goes, "What's the matter?" And I said, for a minute I thought the thing was going to hit me, because I was like, "Oh my God!" And so I've found that those kind of things are really are intelligent. They really are, whatever's dealing with those. But the problem with them is they don't last long.
No, they don't. They don't stay around for very long, do they? No. Holly, have you seen any, Holly?
You're making me think now, because I was thinking, oh no, I have not. I totally haven't. And then actually, the more I'm sat here, I'm thinking, actually, there's been a couple of times with Ralph in your last time I was over your living room.
Yes.
That light I went across, and then we had a sleepover. Not sleepover. Do you know what I mean? We went and stayed at a friend's house a while back, and in the room there was all them sparkly. I kept saying to you, "What's that? Sparkly things." Remember?
Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking, yeah, I think I have. I came on, I was more like, oh, I'm going to learn some stuff, because I kept going to Ralph. I was like, oh, it's boring. But actually, I'm learning. So
I think when you break it down like this, that there's and recognise that there's an intelligence behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Then it's an interesting subject. It's just that it's. I think there's been that many pictures of dust where people are so convinced that it's an orb, you know, and it's disheartening to, I suppose, to hear that it isn't when you're going out looking for stuff, and you know, you get your evidence and everything and that, and it can be disheartening if you think it is something and then somebody quietly explains it's a bit of dust.
I know,
You know?
I've had one or two people in my team that have thought they've caught an orb in flight, and it appears like a long white sausage shape. And it is, and I'm saying, I don't know.
There's a problem with the camera as well. When it's in a dark place, the speed exposure opens up longer. Yeah. So when you move your camera, you'll get a streak, but it's actually one light that's caused a light streak across your camera. Yeah. And the amount of people and then when you've looked at the picture, you've gone, yeah, but have you noticed it's blurry? And they go, yeah, well, so because she moves.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's it. Always check your backgrounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. because I teach photography, and I do this thing called light trails, where we stand at traffic lights. We're weird, but I get them, put long exposure on, and you see these red lights all the way in their shots, and it's just the trail of the light of the car. So it's a way of saying to people that you can get tricked. Even your own eyes can do that. Actually, when you get tired, they do that as well. But the thing is, you're quite correct. The amount of groups that I used to fall out with, or people around me, but I always used to say to them, "Look, I'm going to be honest with you. If it's dust, it's dust. But when you've got an orb, it is phenomenal."
Yeah, absolutely. It's a completely different experience, and it's that. When you see it, we are looking through any cameras or everything, and you see it in that, it's that sphere shape.
Yes.
And there's movement in it. There's always movement in it. It's never. All these other ones are just they're just flat discs, which is just reflection off a dust. Yes. You know, a particle of dust. It's just a reflection off it. It's like if you put sugar onto a black surface and then take a photograph of it with a flash, it'll all sparkle, you know, because grains like it's got a side to it, hasn't it? You know, different sides, and it's that bounces it off.
I think you're right. I think that's the thing about an orb. It's got to be 3 dimensions. It's got to have more to it. I think you touched on it earlier on, Julie, when you said that some of them will have a face or something inside them. Well, some of that can be pareidolia. But what I find the more fascinating ones are when you get a group come together, because I've always said to people, when you get like the sparkler effect, when you put the sparkler up, you got all those shooting lights. That's the formation of a spirit.
Yeah.
That's when a spirit is coming together and it will show itself.
Yeah. And it's different for black orbs. They tend to, what I've noticed with black orbs is, I've seen quite a few of these go from a tiny little, like a size of a pound coin, to start to increase, and then your circular kind of image disappears because it starts to cloud then and form as a black mass, you know, and it's like cloud billowing out really, and so it's coming out of that circle, you know, and it takes over.
They tend to, the larger they get, they tend to misshapen they get, you know. It's, I don't want to lead people to believing that orbs are always perfectly round, because they can be all sorts of jellified shape.
But then again, when you get them demonic cases, there's a classic sighting that quite a lot of people see are these small black ball things with like legs.
Yeah.
And they're always scurrying away from you, no matter, you know, they're sneaking along at bottom of you, but they're never direct in front of you, these.
Correct.
They're always sneaking along. But they're just like a little black octopus thing.
Yeah, with loads. And you know who reports those to us more than anybody? Children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do. Yeah, they do.
Loads of kids saying, "Oh, we've got this little black things running across the bedroom floor, blah blah." And I thought for a while, I thought, all right, okay, but every house case with children where we go, they've all seen the little black things like spiders, and they're just loads of them.
We always tell them to draw them, and you know what's going to come.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A round ball with just 1,000
With
legs.
some legs on it. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, very strange. Very, very strange.
I think you're right there. I think there's been a lot of cases that I've certainly dealt with where it's turned. I mean, you've just done a whole thing about black dogs, haven't you?
Yes.
Where, well, I've had a lot of cases where people have seen these black orbs turn into those black dogs.
Dogs,
In an air form first, and then as it's going, you can see it growing into a dog.
Again, it's that black, isn't it? You've got to be very wary of that black. When you are. Yeah. You know, anything black, anything dark or black, be very wary, because it's that colour for a reason.
I mean, in most cases, when you've been dealing with, let's talk about the demonic side of it just for a second or two here. When you've been dealing with that side of it, you generally, when you're focused on dealing with something that's of a bad nature, certainly for me, I'm focused in a particular area. So something dark coming around me is not something I'm looking for. Somebody walking with a white top on, you spot them, but if they're walking with a black top on, you're not spotting them. So those darker shapes blend in better.
Yeah, they do. I think when you get a full manifestation from that black, then when it actually does manifest to its true form, not that it's showing its true form, but it shows its form, this form, what it's showing to you. If you look at that blackness as well, it's a different black.
Yes,
it's a very, very dense, like you've got a black jumper on, Ralph. There, it's darker than that. As daft as it's, you can tell, can't you? You know,
it's like
stand out against your jumper, easy. You know, it's a really dense colour when you see it.
And again, when you're dealing with those type of orbs, the whole atmosphere is different as well.
Yeah,
it's usually quieter. Your hearing's usually very focused on something. But I found that what you feel almost stiff in your own body. You seem to tense up more. So they do have a profound effect in a different way, and this is why the subject of orbs can be it's very easily dismissed, but in actual fact, it's quite a subject matter that's quite one that's intriguing when you really start looking into it more.
Yeah, absolutely.
The lady that you're on about there, Julie, is if she's concentrating on it more and more and more, then that's a good thing. It really is a good thing because it needs a lot more looking at. I mean, it's something I get involved with, but not focused on fully.
Yeah.
She's very good at what she does, you know. I've seen quite a bit of her work, and to be fair, it looks quite artistic. You know, it's quite amazing what she does with them and lightens them up and one thing and another. It's interesting.
Just on here, there's Kate Houston. Every time I see a black orb, there is always a disembodied voice that follows it in the house I live in. I find them fascinating.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
They are. They're at that far end. I think a voice with an orb it can actually be along most orbs. But it's certainly with the black orb, you're on a different level. You're on a different plane altogether when you're dealing with those. And again, the size of it, again, like everything's got categories. Is the smaller it is, the more manifestation of a power you've got there because it's holding itself together more.
Yeah.
You know?
So, what would you class the one at Nottingley Town Hall as when we had the Bella doll and it blacked out Dave? Would that be an enormous orb, or would it have been
a mass?
A mass?
A mass, you know. But it would have probably started off as an orb. you know, that we didn't see it, you know.
Well, it was dark, weren't it?
But then when we looked, we were there. I mean, I'd got my back to it, and Dave were behind me, and this black mass went right through middle of us, but yet there were a table there and everything.
Yeah,
a big boardroom table, and Dave was sat down at bottom, and I was sat at the other side, and this thing went in between, but it completely blocked Dave out in background. Yeah. Completely blanked him out. There were no Dave. He'd gone onto, and then he appeared again. You know? And then he appeared again. We'll put that clip up. We'll find that clip and put it up.
That's a very interesting clip, is that?
It is, because I've got one, a friend of mine. He's not with me anymore. Dave is a friend of mine, but I was videoing him. We were talking to each other, and this black shape just went right across him, and I'm like, oh! And my first thought was somebody had walked past a light or something. So I flicked the camera moving, but it hadn't. I was just focusing. It was only me and him in the room.
Yeah,
they do. You're correct. It's like a masking, a cloaking effect. And that's when they're showing off. That's when they're taking over. They're going to start to do more.
Yeah. I mean, that tied in with building itself. I mean, Julie's been attacked in there.
Right.
You know, and it is quite a violent thing that's in there when it starts going, you know. But
and you're going to it, all of you.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a fascinating place, you know. Yeah, and I'm not a venue person. Julie will tell you. I just roll my eyes when people mention venues. It's not that I'm not. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I'm not. Where we are now in what we do. You're not kind of you don't go visiting places, do you? Do you know what I mean? You haven't got time for your cases to start with, but it's kind of that as well, that when you cross over and deal with cases and you are getting rid of things, and that things obviously don't like you. So you can go to these places that become very, very dangerous for people that deal with cases.
Yes.
You know.
And that's the other thing as well, you know, once the thing is, now we recognize it and now we get involved in it. It's quite a common thing for it now to sort of say, all right, you've seen me in one form, I'll show you in another form.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I mean, like for us, I can't think of the last time I actually went out and did a investigation, even in my own museum. It's taken me a while to get back in there to do things in there. But it's because I'm out on cases or I'm out talking to people about stuff. You get so drawn into stuff that you forget. Like I forget about the orb scenario until something strange happens, and I go, "Oh God, yeah." You know? And then I've started writing my notes up about this sort of stuff, because you tend to forget how they're actually giving you signs and giving you warnings or giving you information. Some are friendly, some are like the black ones. Well, these black ones are another energy, but some of them are giving you stuff, and we miss it. We just miss it, and it's just taking that 5 minutes to sit back and go, actually, hang on a minute, that showed me that, and that was this. Colour ones are lovely. I love the idea of those.
Yeah.
It's the multiple ones that obviously getting rarer that are just superb as well. And then the one thing I always remember, I forgot how bad our eyes are. Okay, everybody's, because we have one weakness with our eyes that is a major issue, and it's one that spirit know it can use, and that's something called the blind spot.
Yeah.
Like everybody's eyes got a blind spot, and so sometimes I know these orbs will run along that line. They'll run along a line that you can't see until you move your eye left and right, and you think, "What's that? What's that?" And then when you go to look at it, it's not there.
Yeah.
So and that shows you the intelligence that you're dealing with.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And your own eyes will deceive you. That your brain will trick you. It will. I mean, there's things like, you know, if you put your fingers together close and as you're moving forward, hang on a minute, I've got a finger in between them two fingers, which is not there. You know, so it will trick you, and it will. And age is another thing as well. As you get older, you tend to see more. shapes and things in corners than you do when you're younger.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
that's another one.
I've done.
I can't even see telly now. I can't read writing on telly. My eyes are
Who's speaking? Yeah, no, it's one of those things of I went to a house just in South Kensington, you know, and I was dealing with this family, and that they'd been seeing this gentleman walk through the house. The problem was with this gentleman, he was naked.
Yeah.
So he was coming through, and they were saying to me, "Oh, he's naked, blah blah blah." And I kept looking at the wall next to me, and I kept looking, and it was a brick wall, you know. I kept looking, thinking, "I'm sure there's a shape on this wall." It kept moving. And so what I kept me on it for a while, and I thought I've got to take. So as I was talking to him, I picked my phone up and took a picture of it while I was talking to see if what was going on. The second picture I took, I then checked the two pictures. It was one of these black orbs had moved down the wall. Now, because we were all talking and it was part of the wall, none of us had spotted it. But I just caught the corner of my eyes. Then I realised, obviously, this house had got quite a few activities in it. There had been 2 murders inside it. That's for one thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
This all didn't stay long. It had gone, but it also gave me rise as to why this man was walking through, this naked man.
Yeah.
So once we'd done what we'd done, it was cleared again. But I know you're laughing your head off because it's a naked man. Sorry. Always smiling.
It's not unusual to see naked ghosts. It's not unusual.
No, it's not. It's because it did it obviously because it was more dramatic. If it had just walked in as a ghost, obviously it was just going to do its thing. But because the family would been talking about seeing orbs and lights and things like this. They'd seen lights go across the wall. They'd had what they thought was a light bulb on in one room. They went in to turn the lights off, and it wasn't. It was just this glowing light that then disappeared.
Yeah.
But it seemed to me as though at that time in my life, I was looking at that maybe orbs were actually then an early sign of a spirit. It was going to manifest as a spirit.
Yeah.
I've since now realised that yes, it's part of it, but it's not always the case. Sometimes it's just orbs doing their thing.
Yeah. But they are. When you get hauntings and you get places where they've got activity, not necessarily negative activity, with good activity, you still, people report orbs more often than not. They'll say when they're going through, you know, when we're asking them, like, to start from beginning, tell us what's happened, what were first things that, and usually first thing is either tapping and scratching, or we seen a light, or we saw an orb, or we, you know, they tend to come in quite a lot with investigations where people see these things. It's like a precursor to something coming after, you know.
Yeah, and I like programs like this because most people, when they say they see a ghost and stuff, have missed all the early activity, all the early stuff.
Absolutely.
Who's that? Me? You?
This is Tammy ringing.
Oh.
Okay.
All of us.
We'll talk about that case.
Excuse me, and I'll just tell her what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got some questions. Let's have a look.
Okay.
Right, Annette Locke. Oh, I've seen this as well. We have a bedroom in my house where a sparkle effect has been seen. I can remember in East Drive, I were getting into loft, which at time you could get into loft. You'll not be able to get into it now, but we were going up into loft. And as we lifted hatch up, and I got up, I were kind of halfway in, top half in, and it was as though somebody just got a pot of golden glitter and gone like this, and it was like a shower of these lights, you know, coming down. But they didn't hit the floor. That was the thing. They only went so far, and then they blacked out. They'd gone. You know, really strange experience. So I can understand where Annette's coming from.
Yeah, the spark effect. In actual fact, I have to say that in most cases I've dealt with, it's usually a very good energy. I mean, a really nice energy. I dealt with a case in Lisbon, in Ireland, where the sparkle effect was on, and it was almost angelic. It was actually enlightening. It was lovely. And that family had all sorts of issues, and suddenly it was lovely and everything went. And the sparkle effect was something that it's almost like it was saying to you, you know, like celebration. It's like that sparkle effect is more common than most people realise. It's also one of the effects that I do know of is before an apparition appears.
Yeah.
I can't count the amount of times I've heard people saying to me, sparkle effect, then they've seen a ghost literally within a day or two after it. And it's the start of effect. So she's got something there that may turn into an apparition coming out at her. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but that's how it works.
I'm sure she can handle it because she's obviously watching these shows, so she'll
it's a nice effect. To be honest with you, it's a really nice effect, and it's one that I've come across anyway, and it is lovely to see. It's a nice thing, and it's something I'd say I've been frightened of, but I've actually got a good feel from it, So and it's third in my list of. So they've done a small one first. They've done a shimmery one as well. So what does that say? This
is Jesse, our friend over in France. He's one of our contributors for the magazine as well. And he's got there's a couple of shows already on that we've done with Jesse. And I think John and Phil are doing some shows with him as well.
Right.
Orbs are usually alien.
That is another angle on it. I'm not saying it isn't. There's another angle on it. I'm not quite sure I'd go down, without being awful to him, I wouldn't say I'd go down fully that route. But it's certainly something I would look at. I think I said earlier on, like a time slip type thing, where there seems to be a fracture. Something's going on with it.
Yeah.
We are an energy ball ourselves anyway. And I always talk about when we pass away, this energy rises, and sometimes it's seen as an orb or a spirit form, but that is there.
Yeah. I kind of agree with Jesse in a way, because even before I were even looking into the alien side of things, I did wonder, is there a connection?
Yeah.
And one of my first captures, somebody who's in this area on the alien side, she did say that it looked rather reptilian, what I'd caught.
Yeah.
And it would only when I started speaking to this lady that I thought, well, why not? Who knows?
I think you've got to, it's like with any investigation, you can't just say, right, I've seen that orb, it's alien, it's demonic, it's a spirit, it's a this. Yeah. It's the surroundings, everything that's happened before, everything that's happening then. You've got a history, you've got a reason why you're there investigating it. So if you put all them things together, I think you'll come up with a better idea of what it is that's trying to communicate, even if it's communicating for a negative reason or a positive. It's still there, isn't it? It's still coming through. But
I agree with you. It's like it's like having an open mind to it. It's kind of that, because that alien aspect is it can't be dismissed.
No, not at all.
There's certainly something in it, but it's just that unfortunately we just don't know enough, and it's kind of we get in there with things, but even then it's always going to be that mystery, I think.
Well, I think tonight officially we'll start Orb Quest. So everybody who's watching, get all your info on orbs, and we'll come back to it at a later date.
And I'll send you photographs in and stuff, guys, if you've got any.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be nice. We'd like to see that, please.
It'd be something good to cover in magazine as well. So if there's some good shots, we'll put them in. We'll get them in there. I think John and Lord would. Oh, this is Joe, my lad, who's now 18. So this is how long ago this is.
Right.
But you can see there. That was similar to the one that me and Claire saw, but they were football size. And we've seen this a couple of times in this house, this blue one, which is about this big. It's about so big.
Right. Okay.
And you can see that it's
three-dimensional again. It's not just a flat shape.
I think so. I think there's more than one in there. Definitely.
Yeah.
But they never come on their own anyway, do they? So,
this is it. And I mean, that we're taking, well, like I said, it must have been about 3 or 4 there, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's 18 now, so. But I've cut it actually because his other brother Sam was sat beside him, and Sam's actually looking direct at it, as though to say, "What's that?" You know. So, but I'll find original photo of it and put it up against that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the whole scenario, because that's got a direction. If you're looking at it, you can see it moving in a direction. So this is the fantastic thing about this sort of stuff. It's showing you that there's more to it, and there you go. It's a different kind of shape. Look, it's not actually circular if you look at it.
Yeah, and it looks as though it's rotating, doesn't it?
Mm.
You know, with these lines that
that's the thing.
It's as though it's spinning against where it's going. You know,
that's the thing that I've orbs that are what I call them on a more higher level. They do rotate. The one that I talked about in America, this big one, it was actually moving. You could see it looked like a big bubble that had been blown in actual fact. But the thing was, every time she took a picture of it, every time she videoed it, it was exactly the same one. So it didn't actually alter so much, you know. But there you've got what a case that is.
I caught one up in my office above the garage. We had a little baby bouncy chair. We had the Kinect running. The guys wanted to put a REM pod at the back of it, obviously, because then, you know, they're just in training level. And what we got is we saw a figure from behind the door walk in.
Yeah.
It set the REM pod off. It came in sideways. It turned and looked at us, turned back, changed into a shape, and it came out, and it was like a piece of paper. And it went to one of the investigators and looked at her, and it turned round and it went back in.
We'll get that clip on next week. We'll put that on next week. That clip. It's a fantastic piece of footage. Absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
Because you do see this figure walk in.
Yeah, you do.
And then that figure goes, because it's changing its form to move out, you know, and it comes out.
Yeah.
Then it looks what looks like a paper aeroplane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, so that's. But I think what it is angle at camera, and I think it's like its shoulder, or you know, it's just a really. I can't. We'll put it on next week. We'll get it on and let people.
When we stopped it on the big screen TV, it looked like this part of an arm with a white shirt on.
Yeah.
But when it changed into the object and it came out, I've caught it on a still, and it's very similar to what's happening in that round one we've just seen that's blue. It was like action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can actually see there's more than one in whatever it is, but it's an incredible video. I'll find it out and we'll show it next week. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you see, this is the thing. It's like it's sometimes when because even I've gone back over footage and I've gone back over things, because you kind of see it and you go, "Oh, that's an orb. Oh, that's fascinating," but you don't sit and consider it enough. You don't sit and, you know what I mean? And with moving into the demonic side of it, you have to sit and look at every little thing that's going on.
Yeah,
because they're clues. And so what I've done now with a lot of things I've done in the past, I've gone back and looked at them and gone, "Oh, actually, that was a clue for that. That was there." And so you can start to see. But they have a way of doing things, you know. Yeah. And then that started to show me they're not just a random orb. There's an intelligence there. There's something there. There's a bit more to it.
There's an old saying, isn't there? Details in the devil. Devil's in the detail, or whatever.
It's true. And the thing is, with that video, it related to the haunting of Frederick Smith and Sarah Smith. And the actual baby that appeared on the Kinect system sat in the chair that was hugging me, touching me, wanting to kiss me on my face and all the rest of it. That is when I was experiencing activity in the house. And the Amberline doll that you took, that was broken. That was related to that case. So yeah, I'll find it out and put it up.
I'm just trying to find this. I'm not being rude. I'm just trying to find that East Drive thing. I'll send it to Phil. He'll probably get it on.
Right.
Well, I'm finding this fascinating.
Are you really?
I am, yeah, because me and Orbs, I was like, oh, Orbs, it's dust. Well, you know what I'm like, Ralph. It's one of the probably the only bit about the whole paranormal thing I was a bit like, oh, Orbs. Because it's always been dust, or people have showed me what they perceive as an orb, and I'm like, that's dust. And it wasn't until tonight when you're actually talking about them, I thought, because I didn't think I've seen one, and then I've sat thinking, actually, I have. I've sat with Ralph, and I have actually seen them. But at the time, didn't think anything of it. I just kept calling them wisps and sparkly lights, didn't I?
Yeah.
I know. Once I were investigating in somebody's house. It was a house case. Now, again, I'm not a photographer, but I caught something, and it was quite long across the picture, and it were like black smoke intertwining all the way across the picture. Yeah. Now, whether there's an explanation in photography for that, I don't know. You know,
again, I think it's them circumstances, isn't it? It is about, look, why are you there? You've obviously got background and all these things when you're doing, when you're doing a case, and then you see this orb, and that's kind of that validation as well. Yeah, there's something intelligent there, even though I would call an orb an early stage of manifestation for me, but that's purely from what I've seen. I've watched black orbs billow out and form to 9 foot tall. I've seen them mask a room off. I've seen, I've seen them push you back. I've felt them push you back.
There we go.
This is it. So you'll see where that little table is. You'll see it come from there. There you go.
Yeah.
You see them? But there's two.
Yeah, there is.
There's two side by side. Blue.
They're not going to believe this.
There you go. You can hear it.
This is in East Drive, everybody, as you can see.
They're not going to believe this. What's just gone past there?
Yeah. But that went two together almost like a yo-yo, as it.
You can see the speed at which that's going. That's not right. So you've got airflow in a property, and you've got heat and damp. I think I've explained it.
Yeah.
But the airflow in that property isn't that fast.
No.
Not that fast. That's gone at a pace.
It would be if somebody had walked and then that came straight after, because it had been dragged, wouldn't it? That air. But there's only us two in that house, and we were just sat there opposite each other, and you can see it's not like I've just turned it on either. We were relaxed, it was doing whatever it was doing and then woof, it just went past.
Yeah. And again, classic.
And then later on that night, I think it's the same night we caught the big figure in the doorway.
Yeah.
Which again, adds to that he's manifesting or.
That was a brilliant capture, that. Really good.
Well,
Kat was just saying, my light's flickering behind me in the other room. Thank you for that. I've not noticed. Strange things go on in my hall, Kat.
And they're not spiritual either. No.
Oh, yes, I remember that one as well.
Well,
that's what we say about my house, you.
I didn't say no. Cliff Jones has put, I remember the photo you took in your living room, Julie, of a black shape near a mirror. While me, Dave, and Richard sat on the sofa.
Yes, I do remember that, Cliff. I don't know whether I could find it of about 7,000 pictures. If you've got it, send it in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Anything that you've got out there and that, send them in by all means. You know,
I do remember that, yeah.
and we'll put them up.
There's a famous one of me. I did a magazine article, and I went down to Eastbury Manor in London, and sorry, and I'd gone round the manor with them all, and it's a National Trust house, and I'd gone round and talked to them about these two tall dogs that I'd seen, which turned out to be the landlady, the land owner's wife's dogs. But then I got to this. There's a tower in the middle of it, and I got talking to them about this man in there who was bald-headed, blah blah blah, and then the photographer from the Sun newspaper had come down. He was taking shots, and it wasn't until he got back to his studios, he was editing them, that he realised not only was my shadow not my shadow, it was a completely different shadow. I'll have to get that picture for you. It's a completely different shadow, but right at my foot is this huge blue orb, massive, and it just didn't fit. And when you look at my hands are open and I'm talking, but where the shadow on the wall, there's a hand that looks like it's praying.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
And it freaked him out. Now that was a professional photographer taking shot. You know, we tried to dispel. We tried to look at whether it was reflective, whatever, but it wasn't. Then I go back to the manor afterwards and I talk to them all, the owners and that, about what had gone on, and I tell them about that. Apparently, they get this blue orb in the main hall upstairs. This big blue orb goes around everywhere. So it appeared in a different spot for us. So it becomes a fascinating thing then, because then you're starting to say, well, if they're going to come up and they're going to manifest on command, which that one was doing, there's more to it. There's something coming in, you know?
Yeah, there is. Whatever it is, there is. Yeah.
Absolutely, there is.
Steve, I'll ask you a question. What have you got in the cabinet on the behind you? Is it in a glass case? I can see.
Me or Steve?
Oh, Steve.
That over there in a case.
Yeah.
It's a doll it's a doll that's been sent to us.
I think if you look back on the video a little bit, if you just backtrack, you'll see it. I thought I saw it shimmer, it move.
It's quite well. This doll, I'll give you a quick one on what this doll is. This doll came from a lady who was destined at the age of 33 to be sacrificed in a satanic cult, and she would have been sacrificed as a high priestess. So that she were having some problems, and that's come to be looked at.
Right.
But Julie came other day. You come to drop some stuff off, didn't you? And we were doing some work on getting this ready. We were going to actually put this on Sunday night,
right? So
that people can screenshot it and that. And before even she saw it in case or knew it were kind of there, he said there was something what's going on, something not right.
Something's not right with that.
And I kind of went, is it not?
It literally caught my attention a minute ago, because I was talking away to you, and then I saw it. I could swear it was. Well, then I stared at it, thinking, well, I'll talk to you, but I'll stare at it, and the flipping thing moved. So, like, okay, fair enough. Oh, well, that's fine. That's good.
It's got a St. Benedict rosary on it. Purely because I think if it don't, then it might get loose. Not that it'll get loose, but it might have some more effects than what it's having at minute.
So are you getting the whistle sounds and things from that as well?
Yeah, we get little bits of stuff off it and that, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's that. Showing off.
You know when you get, I don't know if you've ever done this, but when you take a wheel bearing out with all the ball bearings in it and you spin the wheel bearing, that sound, that spinny sound is what I'm getting with that thing.
Yeah. That it's the lady it came from, the background is horrendous and horrific. It's really horrific. And it's something that, I mean, we'll touch on this a lot later down the line when we go on to darker stuff and everything. But as for satanic cults and things like that, they're a very real thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very real thing. Don't let anybody kid you on that they're not. You know, but yeah. Yeah.
No, and we are going to deal with that subject. We are going to bring that forward.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think the way we're going with the programs, we need to get. It's one of these things of the more you understand about the spiritual side of it, the more you understand about the ritual side of it, the more you'll start to understand about the demonic and satanic side of things.
I mean, we said, didn't we, right at the beginning, that we could come straight on and we could talk about demonic every week, but I don't think it's beneficial. It really isn't beneficial to people. And I know people want to know about that kind of thing, and how we deal with it and what we do and all these kind of things. And I get all that, but like you've just said, it's better to have that grounding in how everything works before you move into that level, because it's a completely different ball game. It's not. Yeah, it's not for fun, is it? You know,
no,
one mistake and that could be it. You know, there's no second chances with once you go into that kind of case and that kind of thing. This is why I would advise any team out there that's you know that they might be getting the first case, or they might, you know, I've had a couple of cases or whatever, and what they think is demonic won't be. No, it won't be. You know, you'll know. It's like we do it. Things start happening. They happen around you. They happen, you know, they happen to your family because you're a target. It's and I think that's why we need to get that grounding in and talk about all different other aspects before we even get anywhere near that. You know.
Yeah, you're quite correct. You need to go into that world with a good sound knowledge, because if you don't, what you perceive as a demonic energy, you're quite correct, it won't be.
Yeah.
When you hit one, you'll know it.
Yeah.
You'll really know it, and then that'll knock you for six, because it's. I mean, it's. We always talk about the way we deal with our cases. We take our time. We go it. We don't just run in and do it, because as you and I all know, when we've had groups go in and they've gone in and gone, oh, this is demonic, and then they've gone and called for it, they've gone and done a Ouija board on it, they've gone and so suddenly you're going, oh, if it's demonic, why have you gone and done that? Why do you go down that route? Why? You know, it's like because
you can't solve negative with negative.
No,
won't work. Don't matter what form you use, as in, like you were saying, Ouija boards, and especially the words that you speak are extreme. They're more powerful than any tools or gadgets or anything else or whatever. This is why we have prayer. This is why we have rituals. This is why we have all these things. These things are extremely powerful, your words. Extremely powerful, especially in this realm as well, when you're dealing with this kind of thing. So you going in and thinking, you know, oh, you're scaring this poor woman and her kids.
Yeah.
Come and have a go at me. Won't come then, but it will come, because she challenged it. You know, it will come. And again, that's all down to, you've got to look at, it's just being very careful what you say, because one wrong word out of place and all hell will break loose on you, you know.
I always put that case of, Holly will know this, okay? A good murderer isn't going to come at you, hell on all that. They'll come up, they'll sneak on you, and then that's it. That's the end of it.
Very premeditated.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you think in life that the person in front of you could be a murderer, that's what you're thinking of as a demonic. It's like, it could be as nice as pie.
Yeah.
And it can be as horrible as pie, but it's just there. It's what it goes. There's a question hit there. Look, it says, I have a question. Can spirit connect, attach to you without you knowing it? Yes, of course it can.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you've got to allow it as well, haven't you?
Yes, you've got to allow it.
You've got to have. The thing is, people don't realise they've done something, even innocently, very innocently, and with no intentions at all. But again, it goes back to like saying wrong thing, doing wrong thing, and it happens. It happens more often than not, you know.
I always say this thing of, you know, when you go into a room and you go, I don't want this to be haunted. The fact that you've said, want it to be haunted is what's happening.
Yeah.
It ignores the I don't want. I don't. It ignores it. It goes, oh, you want me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the use of that. You know, it's like, is it evil in here? You've actually said evil. You're bringing it, so it's kind of like you've just got to be so careful. And I think everybody thinks I know certainly when I've talked about this sort of subject, people always go, "Oh, you're being a bit dramatic," and I go, "Really? Well, you wait.
Yeah.
I'll just sit back, because it's kind of a subject matter that, I mean, we are getting there, aren't we? Our series of programs, we're planning to get up to that level to start to talk. Not that we're going to go into some of the rituals that we do and things like this, but certainly we're going to get you to a point where you will recognize things. You'll know things that
where you can identify it. We can give you things where you can protect yourself against it, and also advice on and not to fall into them traps, these footfalls, because them traps are laid ready for you. Once you go down that path, they're laid ready for you. You know, we've got a guy called Stephen Bishop on, who's just said, my wife and I live in a haunted house for over 30 years now. My first was at my first duty station in the Air Force out in Cheyenne, Wyoming, 40 years ago.
Oh.
The house a buddy and I was renting used to be a boarding house for travellers back in the 1800s, train and stagecoach. We started having strange things happen and would see the big dark shadow like black smoke. We finally had to say something to the very old landlady. We found out a man was stabbed to death in my bedroom, she said.
There you go.
So there's a cause to it, isn't there? That's the thing.
I'm jealous in two levels there, because I'd love to go and visit.
Yeah, me too.
Wyoming is somewhere I'd love to go. There's a lot of history there, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, so that gentleman I'm very jealous of. The other side of it is, yes, he's correct. That's where these darker energies come out, and he's picked up on that one straight away.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we dealt with it.
Yeah. That's the thing as well. Is you know, if you're renting properties or whatever, ask your landlord if you feel that something's happening and that. Don't feel as though you're crackers. Most people think, oh, I don't want to say out because they're going to think I'm nuts. Or people, it don't matter what people think in your family, what your friends think or anything. If you're in a position where you're frightened or you're troubled or you're worried or any of them things, you must ask. You must seek help, because being on your own with it or your family with it and letting it carry on only means it'll get worse and worse and worse. You know,
which we're dealing with a case where that is exactly happening now.
Yeah. Well, I can take you back. I know we're dealing with the one now, but I can take you back to the Monster House case.
Yes.
25 years worth of history to that case before I even got involved in it.
Yeah.
We had vicars and priests and everything going in well before I did. And the case we've got on presently is a similar thing. It's been festering and festering. It's just grown and grown and grown. And now we're at a point where we're having to just tread really carefully to go in, you know.
Yeah.
Because the family involved, it's a delicate scenario, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
And it's that as well, isn't it? It's we can't afford to make mistakes.
No,
we're on that target list already.
Yeah.
So it's like we don't want to be making any mistakes and giving it an advantage, really, you know.
Well, my garage is next to me and I've got some artifacts from that particular family that we need to get with. I've left them all boxed up and everything because I'm not going to undo them at the moment. I don't want it here.
Well, when this COVID thing's over, we've got this thing as well, haven't we, that up at Aniston's funeral parlour, we'll be checking these objects. We'll be looking at them. Ralph will be talking about them. Ollie will be talking about them. But then we're actually going to work with these objects.
Yeah, that we've been given.
I can't quite believe there's a common theme between a few things that we've come across. You know what I'm talking about. You're talking about these dolls that we've got, right? This particular make of dolls, this particular set of dolls. I'm not going to mention what they are, but this particular dolls. We've got now I think that's now 6 from
6.
completely different parts of the country.
Yeah.
All
doing-
cases that we've dealt with, all tend to be dark.
Yeah.
You know.
And
There
these
is a-
families aren't aware of each other, by the way.
No.
The one thing I've made sure of, particularly with this, is we're not talking to these families about
Nope.
this. They've come in as a separate case, a separate thing, so there's no connections to anybody. And I can't believe what we've got, what's going on.
She had no idea until I said to her, "Do you have so and so?"
Yeah.
"Oh yes, but I've got 2." "Not 1, I've got 2." And I'm like, right, okay.
But you also gave a name that was the name of one of them.
Yeah.
Well, I said to her the other day, I picked up the name Rosie. Is it relevant to you? And she went, "Oh my God." And I went, "What's wrong?" She said, "It's the name of one of these dolls that she's got." And I don't know where I got it from. I just got it. And I've picked up on significant names in her family, also of people who died in the house before I knew the history that Cliff, who's on, sent to us. Thank you for that, Cliff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you, Cliff. Brilliant work, as usual.
Yeah. So it's really odd. And, you know, this poor lady, she's suffering at the minute. And it's just this COVID. We just can't do anything at the moment, you know, and it's heartbreaking, really.
This is it. This is it. We've got a question from Cliff.
Hold on.
Speak of the devil. When you go to a place and is alleged to have a demonic presence, and you as an investigator beat on your chest and tense your muscles, shout, "Come on, I dare you to do something," the demon is just smiling and is just waiting, and you are just still calling it out. The demon will literally go up to your face within inches, and the demon will look you squarely in to your eyes without you even knowing it is there. Oh, here we go. You know it's there, and we'll say to you, even though you can't not hear it, or I will let you know I'm here. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. That this is thing with these things, because you can't see it.
Yeah.
Don't think that it's not a mighty force. You know, this is thing. People tend to think demons. They think movies. Oh, it can't do me, because all movies tend to have a good ending at them, don't they? You know, they get rid of it, you know. So, and it's just a matter of going in and you do this and that. Don't work like that. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Hell of a lot of work for everybody involved, you know. But yeah, good point, Cliff. Good point.
Well, no, it is. It's most of us, well, in fact, all of us have been to school. We've all had that.
What was that one?
I think one of the viewers, Andrea, sent a couple of videos in where, you know, earlier when we're discussing orbs and the blue ones, I think they're actually blue, the same as the ones you've got, Steve.
Brilliant.
There you go. Look.
Yeah.
And that's moving around the dog. Wow.
Yeah, you see, you can see that's kind of manifesting into a mist, isn't it? Because it's gone. It loses that disc shape as it's moving away there, or as it's coming forward. It's either coming into a shape or it's going out to one.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got it. Yeah. And it's the speed at which it's going. Look.
Yeah.
It
is.
That's another clue.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a distance it's travelled just in that
just
frame.
That short space. Yeah.
And what are the 60 frames what is it, 6 frames a minute or something like that? Second, sorry, something like that.
Yeah, it depends on the camera, but yeah, that you see, just go. Can it moves at such a distance? So just do that again. So go forward one.
So there it's. You can see it's just at that dog's back end, isn't it? You know. And I mean, dogs hardly moved a fraction, and it's way forward then, you know, or it's going away. I'm not sure which way it's going.
I think it came from the sofa side, if I'm right. I'm sure she said it did. Thanks for that, Andrea. Very
Brilliant.
good.
Absolutely brilliant. But this is what we want. We want you to send your stuff in. We want you to, you know, we're not here to criticise anybody or,
No.
you know, to say, oh, it's not, it's this or it's that. We're not, it's not about that, is it? It's about sharing experiences, learning off each other.
Well, this is what I'm saying to you. It's those common colours again. I mean, and your eye won't see that, by the way. Your eye won't see it as that colour. It's amazing when the only time I've ever seen it in colour fully is when it slows down. But when it goes past you fast, just like a white streak.
Yeah.
They've got colour to them, you know, and the blue colour there, quite a colour that really.
Yeah.
But that's a good one. That's a really good one. And again,
That's
going away from it. So
absolutely brilliant. We've got one from Kate Houston. It will also drain the person's energy and make them feel ill if they don't tell someone if they're experiencing anything paranormal that affects them in any way. Brilliant piece of advice.
Yeah, I give you that. This is what I'm saying. Orbs aren't, you can see an orb, but there's other effects going on. And she's correct. It can drain you. It literally can. It can take your energy with you. I know the darker that colour goes, like I said before, you start to freeze, you start to tense up. And that's another way of it doing it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's more to an orb case than just a camera with dust. That's And I knew when we were going to start this subject out, it was going to be that case. Everybody going, orbs. Ollie, am I right?
Yeah, I think people will start looking at them different now. You know, I'm sure you will, Ollie.
Yeah, I was a bit like, oh, for God's sake.
It is, but when you work on a case by case thing that I've got, because I'm writing up cases at the minute, when you start looking at some of the common things that are in there, or you're quite correct, Steve, Julie, that a lot of cases I've looked at, I've gone, they saw an orb light or a twinkle or something before anything starts setting off. So it's quite amazing when you start looking at that, how even I, in my early cases, overlooked it.
Yeah.
Because it's an orb. Yeah, okay, it's an orb. So I've just written it down. But then now looking back on them, I'm going, and now I've had more experience with them. I'm going, right now that orb means this, or that orb's helping me towards this. You know, it's kind of, it's giving me more of a, it's not the full picture, but it's giving me part of that picture.
Yeah.
It's part of
it's another jigsaw piece, isn't it?
Yeah. That pattern thing you go on about as well, that's the same sort of thing. There's a routine with it, you know.
Oh, I'm a big believer in patterns, me.
What do we know?
Sick of hearing it. Whenever it all comes in, I'll say, watch for pattern. I know to watch for pattern. We've got one from Nathaniel who is asking, can I send a photo? Where do I send it to? Okay, so you can send it onto here. Or you can send it to now then what's the address?
Or you can send it to Steve at realparanormalmag.co.uk. Oh no, it's not. It's Steve at rpmag.co.uk.
Yeah. Or just send it into any one of these where you see where this is this chat is, this discussion.
This is what we want. I'll tell you why we need them, because what the audience don't realise is, for us, this is good evidence. This is good thing. We can look at it and start to say things like, look, that's happened on so-and-so case. That's here, that's there. And you can start to build pictures up over things that are happening.
Absolutely.
With our cases that we've done with, when we're dealing with a demonic thing, this is what we've been doing, haven't we? We've been saying, I've dealt with this. I've been, well, I've had that, and so suddenly you're building a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And without the public doing this with us, you're reliant on what you only know. But I've always said, part of my orb thing is only my version of it. That's just what I've got from it. But there'll be people out there saying, well, I've done this, and this happened when an orb appeared. Love it because absolutely a bigger picture.
Well, it gives them chance to show what they've got and share it and
not be criticised. And I understand
criticised for it.
Yeah, with a lot of Facebooks and things like that. Yeah, criticised.
Yes.
And people think, I'm not going to put it on for the thing. But by all means, send things. We're not about that. We're serious at what we do. So it's to us, it's a fantastic thing to see what you've captured.
The other side of it is, I mean, we will be honest. You know, if I look at it and go, it's actually a light reflection, it's so and so. We'll tell you the truth. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock you. It's. I'd rather have it and say, well, actually, it's this. It's this. Because I've always said, when you get one, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And
you know, I've done it with ghost hunting teams. You know, we've been in buildings and they've said to me, "There's an orb there. There's this," and then I've gone and put my finger on a knot in a piece of wood, and it's disappeared.
Yeah.
It's like, but it was easily looked at and gone, "Oh yeah, that's look at that orb there." And it's like, no. So because I've got them in my building. My building's got there's a couple of holes in the floor where the light shines through, and it does look like an orb.
Yeah.
When I go and stand there, I go, well, but the beautiful thing is, if you can dispel it, what you're left with is that piece of phenomena that we're looking for.
Absolutely. That's it.
You know?
I have actually got a video sent by Jesse. Hello, everyone. Yeah, Jesse sent this in. I just thought I'd play it for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant.
Thank you.
That comes and goes, doesn't it? It's very strange. Clip that.
Yeah, as you could see at the beginning, it was there, then it were like going away and then coming back, and to say that we're in daylight as well.
Can
you get them in daylight. You're not just night.
Can you do it again? Do you mind? Sorry, I just want to see it again.
No worries. I'm just going to put it to part because there's a beginning part with nothing much there. I'll just get it to a point where it's where I see orb. Right, I'll play it from here.
I'll have to blow it up bigger, me, to see.
Right, is that the orb that we're looking at down in the floor?
I believe the orb that you were looking at is what comes and appears there. Look.
Is it an orb? Yeah. Oh no! Hang on.
So it's gone on to the right down in the bottom corner now.
And then it kind of goes in. It just goes into ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, my technical head comes on here. I'm sorry. I've got to be careful here because I can create that kind of an orb with a bright light because he's looking straight at the sun, and there's a reflection inside the lens that can cause a small orb to dance. Because when you're moving left and right, it's moving left and right. If he stayed still and that orb was still moving, then that's a difference. I'm not trying to dispel it. It's a theory.
No, I get you. I tell you though, there were a part though, weren't there, where the actual orb went out of focus and then came in while they were moving.
Again, I'd have to look at it and look at it.
We need to have a very good look at it, don't we? But brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Jesse, for sending that in.
Thank you.
Definitely. We will look at it.
Yeah,
no, we will look at it.
So I think we're coming to an end, guys. With nearly 2 hours in. We've been 2 hours.
I know.
That's gone fast. Gone fast. And that's just orbs. We didn't even touch visions.
No, we never got to it.
We got to the vision stuff. That's another program, obviously.
Yeah, and like people are now saying it background, it could be sun glare, and you know what? And this is what I respect of other people's opinions.
Yes,
because
the end of the day, you know, this is the only way that people will get to find out what it could, you know, what it could be from all these different angles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The only thing I would do with that is I'd go back to the same spot and do it again. And if it appears again, then you know you've got, and it's dancing around while you. It's to stay still to see if it'll move. That's the key. But I'm not saying it isn't. But it's it's not. Yeah, because the sun was in front of you, the light's coming in. But because I can do them with a light bulb. It's the same. But Jesse, I'm not trying to have a go at you. I'm not dispelling it. It's just sometimes we have to go and recreate to see whether or not it's actually really happening. It's the same when I'm doing an investigation. If it's demonic or if it's angelic, whatever, we have to go back in and check. Yeah. It's just something we naturally do.
But we will have a really good look at it and that. Fantastic.
Please,
appreciate coming in, don't we? You know.
Yeah, no, honestly.
Thank you, guys.
Nathaniel, can I send to Redridge or can someone type it?
I've done it. PM'd.
Have you done it? Right, Julie's got you. No problem. So I think that's it then, guys. We've
yes, thank you very much.
To the end of the evening. But thank you so much. Remember, magazine's out on Amazon. Sunday night we've got that doll locked off. Camera on it. We'll probably run it for about half an hour or something, maybe, just so that you get to have a look at it. But what we want is screenshots and send them in. Yeah. We've got movies for. Is it Wednesday night, Phil?
Yeah.
So it might be an old black and white classic, or it might be an old, or it might be a new film or whatever. But we're going to try and put a film on. Just watch along, you know, if you want to. We've got, what else have we got? We've got. I'm not telling you while next week.
No, okay.
I'll tell you.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much, then, everybody, and we'll say good night to you all, and thank you all for joining in. Sorry we couldn't answer everybody, as we don't really have the time, but we will go through everything and read what you've put.
Yeah.
You know, so thank you again.
9 o'clock on Sunday. But you might have you'll be in bed because you have to be up for school. So yeah, cat 9 o'clock. 9 p.m. So from me, good night, everybody, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.